Last week, my friend Adam was driving home late at night after work. It was the night when the snow was so thick that he could barely see where he was going. Adam had no hope of meeting any fellow travelers on the road when suddenly the snow started to fall even more. The road was covered with snow. He pulled off the road into an alley and saw a man start to overtake him. But he didn't overtake him and started driving at the same speed. Adam noticed that the signal on his navigator disappeared. After that, the road narrowed, and he couldn't see if anyone was following him. Suddenly, Adam turned onto the road in a village and stepped on the gas. There was still no signal, and he saw the same car in front of him again. At first, while he was approaching it was driving slowly. Then suddenly, the driver stepped on the gas. Adam got scared and turned into a field. He drove fast, after which he stopped to check if everything was okay. When he realized that his car was stuck in the snow, he felt terrible. Adam knew that someone was watching him, but he would still have to sleep in the middle of the field. In the morning, when the road was visible and the snow had melted a little, he quickly drove home. But he would never forget that night when it seemed like 1,000 eyes were watching you. This event happened in a small area at night, when snow was sweeping the houses and the streetlights were shining as brightly as the last time. Outside the window, there was beautiful snow, while the streetlight beautifully illuminated it. From the window, I suddenly saw a car I didn't know coming up to my house. It simply stopped in the middle of the road, turned off the lights, but left them on. I couldn't make out whether there was a driver there, while the body of the car was covered in snow. I don't remember exactly what time it was, something around 1 or 2. While I was thinking about my own, the car drove up right to my window and stood there. It stood there for a long time. I could see that some man was sitting on the phone, writing to someone. I tried to fall asleep without thinking about it, but in vain. When I looked out the window again, I saw footsteps. Big footsteps, many footsteps, which for some reason extended towards the window. The cameras showed that these traces were made by a man. For no reason. He was standing in front of my window, as if trying to show me something. I quickly hid in the kitchen and just sat there. In the morning, I heard the sound of an engine, and when I looked out, I noticed that the car had left. After checking the cameras again, I saw that the man seemed to be filming my house. No reason, no word, no picture. This story happened to me last winter. It was a night when the snow felt heavy, thick, endless. It didn't just fall, it swallowed sound. The street outside disappeared behind a white curtain, and even the nearest houses looked distant and unreal. Earlier that evening, the lights flickered several times, briefly cutting out and returning, as if the house itself was struggling to stay awake. Around midnight, the electricity went out completely. No appliances, no ticking clock, no distant noise from outside. The house became very quiet, too quiet. I sat in the living room by candlelight. The flames moved slightly, even though the windows were shut tight. Shadows stretched across the walls and ceiling, changing shape every time I shifted in my chair. Familiar furniture looked wrong in that light, older somehow. I tried to distract myself, but the silence pressed in, and then I heard a sound. Dull, slow, thud, thud, thud. It came from below. At first I told myself it was nothing. Houses make noises, especially old ones in winter. Wood contracts, pipes move. But this sound wasn't random. It had rhythm. Thud, pause, thud. I live in a private house. Under the living room, there's a basement. I listened for a long moment, barely breathing. The sound came again, unchanged, steady, as if it had been happening long before I noticed it. I took a flashlight and went downstairs. The steps creaked sharply under my feet. The basement air was cold and damp, carrying the smell of soil and old wood. The light revealed empty shelves, jars, tools, everything where it should be. The basement was cold, empty. I checked the small windows near the ceiling. All of them were closed. I was about to go back up when I heard it again. Thud, right under the stairs. I froze and aimed the flashlight at the floor. That's when I noticed it. A thin crack between the wooden boards. One plank was slightly shifted just enough to catch the light. Then I heard something else. A whisper. Not words, just air. Like someone slowly exhaling through a narrow gap. I ran upstairs and locked the basement door. The knocking continued for about an hour. Slow, even, patient. Thud, pause, thud. It never grew louder, never faster, and that somehow made it worse. Then it stopped. The next day I called a repairman. He listened carefully, then inspected the basement. He told me there was an old ventilation tunnel under the floor. Long ago it had led to a neighboring house, one that no longer existed. It was supposed to have been sealed decades earlier, but the wooden barrier had never been replaced. He asked if I had heard anything recently. I said yes. He stayed silent for a long time. Then he said, "You're lucky the snow was deep." I asked why. He replied, "Because if someone did come out, the tracks would have been covered." We went downstairs again. He removed the shifted plank. Behind it was a narrow, dark tunnel, damp, cold, old, leading toward the empty neighboring lot. I shone my flashlight inside. Dust, brick, darkness. Then he turned the plank over. On the inside were dents, 3 of them, evenly spaced, as if someone had been knocking. Slowly, with pauses. Thud, pause, thud. He didn't say anything. That same day we sealed the tunnel with bricks. Completely. No gaps, no space left. After that, the basement felt ordinary again. A week passed, no sounds. The power stayed on. The snow outside lay smooth and untouched. That bothered me the most. I heard the knocking only once. Only in the dark. Only when the house was too quiet. Weeks later, the snow began to melt. One morning I noticed a compressed strip near the foundation, right where the tunnel ran underground. No footprints. Just packed snow, as if someone had stood there for a long time. I remembered his words. If someone did come out, I still don't know what happened that night. The tunnel is sealed. The basement is empty. The knocking never returned. But sometimes, when the lights flicker even for a second, I stop and listen. Because the worst part isn't the knocking, and not the tunnel. It's not knowing whether that sound was an attempt to get out, or a check to see if I was home. And every time fresh snow falls, I look along the wall of the house, just to make sure that the tracks I see are only mine.